Hello, people. So, if you didn't know, we had some technical difficulties with this episode of the Botcast. There was a certain segment that YouTube deemed to be inappropriate for the tubes. So for this episode, I cut that particular part out, but the unedited version of this episode will be uploaded to my BitChute account. This is kind of similar what happened to episode 9 of How to Be a Neat, right? For whatever reason, YouTube didn't like some of the content that was there, and so I couldn't upload it there. So, but for this, I just took out that particular part, and hopefully it gets through the YouTube censorship machine. But that's why there was a delay with getting this episode out. So without further ado, here is the edited version of OCM Botcast Ep.031. What's it called? Mama, I just want to be a wizard. But the full unedited episode will be on my BitChute, which I think is under Chad Marco as well. So enjoy. Hello, people. Welcome back to the OCM Botcast. I am your host, Chad Marco. Yes, I know. Okay, so today's episode is called Mama, I Just Want to Be a Wizard. So as you guys know, recently I turned 30 years of age, which means that I'm officially a wizard. Now, if you don't know, the whole connection between being a 30-year-old virgin and a wizard, I think it goes back to like this anime where there was like this joke that if you reach 30 years old and you're still a virgin, then you'll gain magical powers, you'll turn into a wizard. Obviously, that's not the case, but it's an ongoing internet joke. I mean, even you look at oh god, my laptop fan just went crazy. It'll be all right though. But even if you look at like WizChan, for example, it's a Chan site specifically for male virgins, and the whole theme of it is based around that internet meme, that joke from that anime. But so I figured, you know what, the next episode of the podcast, I should talk about some male virgin things. So that's basically what the theme of the episode is going to be about. I'm going to talk about, well, first of all, I want to talk about I'm sure you guys have seen the virgin, what is it? The virgin level picture or meme where it basically saying like at what point is being a virgin a problem, right? I'm sure you've all seen that classic meme picture, breaking it down from ages of like 14, 20, 25, 30, whatnot. And looking at it, I always felt like it was kind of silly, you know. So I wanted to give my take on the various points of a man's life and what being a virgin means at those points of his life. Because I've been through, right, from the womb to 30, I have experience in that field. So I figure, you know what, I'm gonna give my take on what it means to be a virgin at like what are the significant virgin milestones for a man, right? So I'm gonna give my take on that. And also I want to talk about like why male virginity is on the rise. Because that's something that we've been seeing in, like, at first it was an issue in Japan with the whole herbivore male thing, and then it's kind of over the years it's now becoming an issue even in the West, in America, where you have a lot of guys now who are not having sex, are not getting into relationships, are not getting married, and some are even claiming like MGTOW, and MGTOW is almost like the West version of herbivore male, more or less. Then you have some guys claiming to be incels, like they're incapable of having sex. Then you have the vocels, I don't want to have sex, right? And so I'm gonna talk about like what are the reasons why male virginity is on the rise. So that's gonna be the topic of the day. But before we get to that, of course, we're gonna have everything else, the TOD, some OC, and the news. But before we get started, you know, we gotta have the Buddha quotes of the day because I'm all spiritual and shit. Okay, so The first Buddha quote says, "Never speak harsh words, for once spoken, they may return to you. Angry words are painful, and there may be blows for blows." That seems pretty simple. Talk shit, talk shit, get hit. But I do think that one thing I've learned about life is that the way you communicate is very important. And I remember I was talking to. In fact, I think I talked about this on the last episode of the podcast where I had a friend whose younger brother, whenever he has problems, it's like his older brother tends to be more abrasive in his communication style, and it tends to make the younger brother upset. And I can tell the younger brother the same thing, but in a different way to where he can actually be receptive to the information. So you got to be careful with not just what you say, but how you say it. And obviously, when you're going around talking shit, that can escalate situations from verbal disputes into violence and even serious harm or death. And so the second one is to neglect the highest dharma and instead to think demeritorious thoughts. What the hell is that? Is like, I'm assuming it's bad. It looks like a bad word. It's like neglecting the jewels on the jewel island and collecting lumps of earth instead. To neglect the highest dharma and instead think. Now, I'm assuming this is like bad thoughts. It's like neglecting the jewels on the jewel island and collecting lumps of earth instead. So that seems pretty simple. Like it's, think positive, don't think negative, right? Doesn't seem too complicated. So that was the Buddha quotes of the day. And I guess that's about it. We're gonna get started. I'm sure everybody's wondering like when's drill music gonna be completed. I'm still working on that. In case anybody didn't know, I snuck one of the songs that I haven't released on the last episode of the podcast in the OC part. So if you paid attention to that, then you got a new song for you. But I'm still working on that. It shouldn't take much longer though. I'll say I'll probably be done by the end of the month. So look forward around then. And then it's gonna be more fun stuff after that. But it's just I've been kind of struggling like getting back into the flow of like music, and one thing I've been doing, if you haven't noticed, is I've been more consistent with the podcast. And looking at my channel, one thing I've noticed is that I need something that I can do consistently that doesn't require like too much effort. Like the podcast can be time consuming, but it doesn't really take a lot of it's not like effort heavy, like, right? Like music is different because you can't force a good song, you can't force a good beat. It can be a little bit more challenging. I enjoy the process, but sometimes if I get into that lazy mode, that's something that I might not feel like doing. Even though that's not really a good excuse, I'm just keeping it real. But with the podcast, I feel like that's something that I can do consistently. So even if I'm not dropping beats or music consistently, like my goal from here on out is to do the podcast more consistently. Like for that to be like at least part of the foundation of my channel. So if anything, I want you guys to be able to depend on knowing that you're going to get at least 2 episodes of the podcast a month, right? So that's basically what I've been kind of focusing on. And then once I get myself consistent with that, kind of going back into the lab, back in the studio more consistently to kind of add on top of that, right? And then just go from there. And that's basically what I've been up to. Life has been pretty much the same. I'm still working my part-time job. I'm enjoying that. I need to start saving the money though. I swear. But man, it's I don't think I'm ridiculous. Like I'm not ridiculous with my money. Like I tend to buy things to either invest into my projects and my goals as far as like my content creation and shit. And also, I buy things, just different things like that I might just need. Like I bought a cooler. But then sometimes I can buy like dumb shit. Like I bought a Red Ryder BB gun, like the one from the Christmas Story movie. So I gotta definitely be more careful with my spending habits. But yeah, again, I'm not used to having money, and I've been enjoying that. I can't even lie. But yeah, other than that, life has been good. I just been doing same old, same old. I'm working on the Hajime no Ippo anime review right now. I've been having fun going back and watching that, and playing games. So look, life is the same. Life is still the same. So let's get into the news next, shall we? So next is the news. Now, I know there was another mass shooting that happened recently with the weird SoundCloud rapper guy. Maybe I'll talk about that on the next episode, but I'm kind of burned out on these mass shootings because they just keep fucking happening. And it's like, what else is there to really say? I will say that his situation is a little bit more unique because of him being like an artist and things like that. But it's probably the same shit, right? He ain't getting good pussy, so he gonna kill people. Like, it's the same bullshit. So instead, I'm going to talk about the assassination of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, right? So if you don't know, recently the former Prime Minister of Japan was assassinated in cold blood. And it was, man, the video, when you watch it, is kind, it really just goes to show how relaxed Japanese society is because they don't have a lot of gun violence. Because it really looked like he was out there just chilling. Like he was just out in the middle of the city just giving a speech. It wasn't even a huge crowd. Like he was just out there doing his thing. Like it seemed like a relaxed excursion out into the city. Just like, I guess he was giving a speech or something, and then just pow, just motherfucker just shot him in the back with a damn pipe gun. It was crazy. But let's get into the intimate details of this. So this article says, let me see. Hold on, which one should I start with? 'Cause I got articles from different places. So I'm gonna do the one I got from Wikipedia first. Okay, so it says the assassination of Shinzo Abe. So on the 8th of July, 2022, Shinzo Abe, a former prime minister of Japan and a serving member of the House of Representatives, was assassinated while speaking at a political event outside Yamato Saidaiji Station in the city of Nara Prefecture, Japan, at approximately 11:30 a.m. while delivering a campaign speech for a Liberal Democratic Party candidate. Abe was shot from behind at close range by a homemade firearm. He was transported by medical helicopter to Nara Medical University Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 5:03 p.m., 5.5 hours after the shooting. The suspect, Tetsuya Yamagami, was arrested for attempted murder at the scene, later upgraded to murder after Abe's death. Yamagami told investigators that he held a grudge against the Unification Church over his mother's bankruptcy and had shot Abe because he believed the former prime minister was close to the group. The suspect also had accused Abe of spreading the church's influence in Japan. Leaders from many countries praised Abe's accomplishments while expressing shock and sadness at his death. His assassination was the first of the former Japanese prime minister since Saito Makoto and Takahashi Korikiyo during the February 26th incident in 1936, as well as the first of a former G7 leader since Italy's Aldo Moro in 1978. So you don't have a lot of incidents like this in Japan, but even in America though, you don't see a lot of assassinations of like politicians and shit like that. Obviously the big one, right? Well, damn, Abraham Lincoln, JFK, but still recently, I'm saying like recently, like motherfuckers out here not trying to get their top blown off. But if you heard me about to laugh while I was reading this, it wasn't out of disrespect. I was remembering all the memes that was being posted about him telling people to have sex. And then that's why I was about to laugh, because I was thinking about those have sex memes. Because again, like I was talking about, like I talked about before, Japan has issues with, the herbivore males and, a lot of people not participating in dating and sex and relationships and marriage. And, Abe, I believe based on the memes, he was pretty outspoken about trying to encourage people to get into relationships and shit like that. But let's continue. So Assassination. While Abe was delivering his speech outside Yamato Saidaiji Station, the alleged perpetrator was able to approach within several meters despite the presence of security. At around 11:30 a.m., Abe was shot twice from behind with a homemade gun, resembling a sawed-off double-barreled shotgun, and collapsed. That's interesting because when I saw the video, it looked like the first shot had missed because I saw the smoke come out, but it's like Abe didn't react. And then the second one, it was obvious that he got hit and because he reacted to it. But I'm not sure. It says that he got shot twice, though. I thought he got hit once. The pellet projectile struck Abe's heart. I mean, look, this guy was obviously he's a bad man. He's an assassin. But damn, he got his heart from the back. Like he was. Those Japanese people, man, they don't play. Whatever they do, they put their heart and soul into it. You do not want a Japanese guy coming for your throat. Abe's security detained a suspect who did not resist. Abe was initially conscious and communicative after being shot. Shortly thereafter, he was transported to a local hospital by emergency helicopter with a wound to the right side of his neck and internal bleeding under his left chest. He was reported to have no vital signs when he arrived at Nara Medical University Hospital in Kashihara, likely due to cardiopulmonary arrest prior to his arrival. At 2:45 p.m., a press conference was held by Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who stated that Abe was in critical condition and that doctors were doing everything they could. Abe was pronounced dead at the hospital at 5:03 p.m., around 5.5 hours after being shot. He was 67. Hidetada Fukushima, a doctor at the hospital, said the cause of Abe's death was blood loss, despite 4 hours of blood transfusions that saw the administration of 100 units of blood. Abe was the first former Japanese minister to have been assassinated since Saito Makoto and Takahashi Korikiyo, who were killed during the February 26th incident in 1936. The first Japanese legislator to be assassinated since Koki Ishii was killed by a member of a right-wing group in 2002, and the first Japanese politician to be assassinated during an electoral campaign since Icho Aito, then mayor of Nagasaki, who was shot dead during his mayoral race in April 2007. Oh, hold up. Okay, I'll just make sure I read everything. Yeah, I mean, it seems like from what I read, because one thing that I was interested in was the motive. That was the main thing. And I was worried that we wouldn't get a motive because I feel like maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't get it, but I felt like they probably wouldn't want to talk about that because when you know, when there's a specific motive, like there's a specific group that's being targeted or an idea that someone might not like, you know, that sort of thing can like light a fire. You know, it can encourage other people, right? It's like, well, this guy, he stood up for this idea. Let me, right? Yeah. I was kind of worried that we would never find out like why he did it, right? Because obviously, if you're going, this isn't like the random spree shootings that we see, because those are pretty obvious, right? It's single mother raised enough. I'll play it, but it to me, I think it's pretty obvious that most of the time in America, these mass shootings are done because these people are mentally ill, they're depressed, they're unhappy, they're bitter. They were raised in under either bad or less than ideal circumstances, and they want to lash out at the world. I think more than anything, a lot of these mass shootings are like it's a desperate attempt to hurt the world as much as these people perceive the world to have hurt them. That's why they don't go after like people always ask, why don't they go after politicians? Why don't they go after law enforcement? Why don't they go after drug dealers and shit? And you have to understand there's a reason why they go after innocent people. It's because they want to harm the world. They want to hurt the world in the easiest way possible. They don't want to go after somebody that's going to put up a fight. They want to do the most damage while having to confront the least amount of resistance, right? And it's all, to me, I think it's all about hurting the world that hurt them. But when you're talking about a political assassination, it's different because it's backed up by ideas. It's backed up by a strong sense of belief. and righteousness. And I think that sort of ideology, that sort of idea behind an assassination can be dangerous, because if he felt that way, if he felt that way, more than likely he wasn't the only one who wanted to get a gun and shoot a politician. Maybe not specifically Abe Shinzo, maybe just one of his affiliates or the party he was affiliated with. You know, he talked about the Unification Church, and I might do more research on it later, but just what I read briefly about it, it seemed like that the Unification Church does have like different controversies surrounding it. But I'll look more into that later. So there's another article here that says, you know, what we know so far about former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's assassination. A day after his assassination shocked the world, police investigators are trying to learn the motives behind the killing of Japan's former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Damn, excuse me, I got oats stuck in my throat. Although the shooter denied political motivations, he told police the attack has been planned for months. Wait, he said the shooter denied political motivations, but so it's not politically motivated? I mean, I get that it specifically is about the Unification Church, but it seems like this is... I don't see how you can really say this wasn't politically motivated, but maybe I'm not getting it. Abe was shot from behind in the western city of Nara while speaking at a campaign event ahead of Sunday's parliamentary elections. Police arrested Tetsuya Yamagami, 41, at the scene. Yamagami, an unemployed former sailor in Japan's maritime armed forces, confessed to the assassination in which he used a handmade firearm, according to police. Police said Yamagami told them that he went to Okayama, another western city where Abe was giving another campaign speech the day before the shooting, according to Kyodo News, which cited investigative sources. Yamagami denied any political motivations for the assassination, according to police. Yamagami mentioned his mother's bankruptcy after she donated to an unnamed religious organization with which Abe had alleged ties, according to Japanese media reports. Friday's shooting happened in a country where gun violence and political attacks rarely occur. Police searched Yamagami's home and found other improvised weapons, including handmade explosives, NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports. So he might have thought of like different ways he could kill him. Like maybe he thought like a bomb, just, you know, straight up explosion. But I wonder, cause if he's saying that it's not politically motivated, you know, was there another target that would have satisfied him? Because if Abe is just affiliated with this Unification Church that finessed his mom, then, you know, like why him, right? Like how significant is his involvement or backing of this church? You know, is he donating millions of yen or something like that? Like, what is his involvement? Has to be more significant than being loosely tied to it. Or maybe he just felt like this would draw attention to the evil deeds of the church. Like, if I kill the person, the most famous, powerful person affiliated to this group, it'll put eyes on the situation and what I'm talking about. Anyone who has even a limited knowledge of how guns work could have made the weapon used in the attack, firearms commentator Tetsuya Suda told Reuters. Suda said the weapon could have been made in less than half a day. Tomoaki Onizuka, Nara's head of prefectural police, admitted there were problems in security and apologized for failing to prevent the attack, according to reports from Kyodo News. Yeah, when you watch the video, it's like they look like they were so unprepared. Like they seemed somewhat panicked, and like they were confused. Like, wait, what? Like, almost like it seemed like they thought they were dreaming. Like, am I in America? Like, I swear I woke up in Japan today. Like, the way they responded was, oh man, if this was America, like, look, say what you want about America, but you know it would have been motherfuckers in suits diving, tackling that motherfucker. And I mean, it would have took less than like 5 seconds, and this dude would have had his skull cracked open on the cement, if not shot dead. Japan has some of the lowest rates of gun ownership and gun violence in the world, with only one person killed by gun violence in 2021, According to the country's national police agency, the gun violence archive recorded over 45,000 firearm deaths in the U.S. that same year. That is ridiculous. Like, that's why I really wanted to. That's why I really wanted to use this article. That last part. Wow, one firearm death compared to the 45,000 firearm deaths in the U.S. that same fucking year. Oh my God, we should be ashamed. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. You know, I like the fact that we can own guns, but we should be ashamed. we should be a fucking shame. You know, we should, out of all the countries in the world, we should be setting the standard as far as gun ownership and having this right and using it responsibly. And we haven't done that as a people. That is absolutely shameful. That is that's disgusting. I gotta be honest. That's really a disgusting comparison. that's horrible. That's America. Shame on you, America, for letting shit get so out of hand. This is just ridiculous. But anyway, you know, I never known much about this guy. Obviously, you know, my interest in Japan is hentai, JAV, and anime. so I'm not into, you know, the politics of Japan. So I wasn't, you know, I probably seen him here and there, like on poll or in different pictures and whatnot, but you know, I can't say I really had an attachment to him or had an understanding of what his ideas are. But it seems like he's a likable guy. Like, you know, when it happened, I went to the poll board. And, you know, poll is a very toxic board. It's one of the most toxic boards on 4chan as far as, like, you know, the racism, the misogyny, the homophobia. A lot of this shit is it's a very, like, you gotta have thick skin to browse poll, and you got to know how to, like, to sift through the nonsense and the madness to find, like, good, stable, reasonable conversations. And it seems like nobody is exempt from just being completely, like, drugged through the mud on that board, right? But what was interesting is that the response to Shinzo's death was, it seemed like most people either, like, just didn't know much about him or they liked him, right? And I thought that was interesting. I kind of expected for people to be like, well, he probably did it because Shinzo Abe was having sex with underage girls, or he made this law that raised the taxes of the Japanese, or he did, like, but nobody was pulling out the dirty laundry. And because that's what I was looking for. I was like, well, he had to do something, right? Now, of course, I don't know myself because it's not like I've done extensive research on this guy. But typically what will happen is if something like this occurs, then the people who do know, they're going to present their theories. They're going to bring out the skeletons. And I didn't see that. I didn't see, like, I checked thread after thread after thread, and I did not see that. It seemed like most people were just like, damn, like, that's unfortunate. Like, he just seemed like a really cool guy. But this whole, the most suspicious thing is the Unification Church aspect. And I think that's what I'm going to have to research if I want to understand, like, why this guy was assassinated. But until then, rest in peace, former king of anime land, Chad Marco wishes you a journey in the afterlife. I don't know how to rest in peace, niggas. Okay, so next we're gonna have the OC, and then we're gonna have the main topic. So everybody, stay tuned. Rest in peace, Shinzo Abe. Okay, so I am back, and it is now time for the main topic of this episode. So today's topic is turn the lights out for now for this one. But today's topic is let me make sure one more thing. Oh shit. Oh, 1 second, please, Evo. My donut cup ready. Okay, we're good. So today's episode is called Mama, I Just Want to Be a Wizard. So we're going to be talking about male virginity today. So I'm sure you guys know that male virginity has been on the rise in recent times. This trend seemed to start in Japan. That's when I first started noticing it. And then it seems like it's kind of spread to the West. And so I want to talk about why male virginity is on the rise. And so I have an article here that I want to talk about first, just to get like the normie perspective, right? So I got this from inside.com. And the article says, why aren't men in their 20s having sex? This article came out last year, a little bit over a year ago. So let's get right into it. So it says, if you spent any time doom scrolling this past weekend, you may have come across the following tweet. Bro, this is an insane chart. Oh, so it's that Virgin chart, right? And so the image in that tweet got spread around a lot, leading to rampant speculation about why exactly men are increasingly not having sex in their 20s. The data itself comes from a March 2019 article in the Washington Post by Christopher Ingram. It shares a number of data points from the General Social Survey, which found Americans overall are having less sex than they used to. Young people, in particular young men, appear to be driving this trend. So that's the graph right there. As per the chart, the percentage of young women who hadn't had sex in the previous year increased as well, though not nearly as much as it did for men. So what happened starting in the late 2000s that sent this rate shooting upward? Here are the prevailing theories. Theory 1 is the economy, stupid. So as Ingram points out in this article, young men, particularly young men with lower levels of education, have been dropping out of the labor force at accelerated rates. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the labor participation rate among men without a high school diploma dropped 10.4% between 2000 and 2015. The drop was less dramatic among men in other categories, around 5 to 6%. There's long been a connection between male unemployment and a lack of steady romantic partners, and this makes sense. Men with less income aren't meeting people at work, they aren't going out to bars, and they're more likely to be living with their parents. The share of young adults living with their parents has increased drastically since the Great Recession. A dearth of long-term relationships leads to a lack of sex. Despite what movies and TV might have us believe, married people have more sex than single people. Less money for young men, fewer relationships, less sex. I think that's pretty accurate too. I put that on my list as well. Theory 2, smartphones and social media. The iPhone was introduced in 2007, giving people unprecedented access to social media sites like Twitter and Facebook. Instagram came along a few years later in 2010. At first, it may have seemed like keeping connected and engaged socially was as easy as sitting on the couch looking at your phone. That may have backfired though, in many young men struggling to develop consistent social skills. Research in this area, however, has been mixed and inconclusive. Another thing people can use on those apps, dating apps. Analysis of apps like Tinder and Hinge have found that the top prospects get an unequal share of the attention, and this is especially prevalent for men. On the app Hinge, 10% of available men garnered 58% of the likes, compared to 45% for the most popular women. Oh my God. And people, oh God, I just gotta stop. People act like 80-20 is just this ridiculous idea. I mean, whatever, right? If you narrow it down even further, the top 1% of men get 16% of the likes, and the top 1% of women receive 11% of the likes. For better or worse, women on dating apps are less likely to initiate contact with men, and because they get messaged so frequently, can afford to be selective. This may have further dampened the sexual prospects of the average man in his 20s. That's another good point though. Theory 3, some of these men are probably gay. If you take a look at the viral tweet again, you'll see the graph is displaying the share of men under 30 who report 0 female sex partners since they turned 18. Emphasis mine. It's possible that the increase is due to a wider acceptance of gay men in relationships and the legal approval of same-sex marriages as mandated by the Supreme Court. Of course, even with America's general attitude toward the gay community becoming more tolerant, the number of gay male Americans is probably not high enough to account for such an increase in heterosexual sexlessness among men, though recent surveys show that up to 20% of adults aged 18 to 34 now identify as LGBTQ. This generation is less likely to use traditional binary labels like gay and straight. As such, it's hard to establish what percentage of this group will exclusively be having sex with men and not with women. Additionally, Obergefell v. Hodges, the Supreme Court case that effectively made same-sex marriage legal throughout the U.S., wasn't decided until 2015. This theory doesn't seem to address why the trend started in the late aughts. An increase in LGBT acceptance likely nudged the number up somewhat, but it's doubtful it will be enough to push it up to 27%. And I agree, it might be like part of it, right? Because you see a lot of guys now get like, even guys who would be considered like predominantly straight and attracted to women. You have a lot of guys now who are also discovering like traps and trannies and shit, and they're seeing that as a viable option. Like some guys are like going out and losing their virginity to traps and trannies, or just straight up dudes and shit. So that's definitely could be like a small part of it, but just like what the article says, I don't think like that's the significant reason. And then on top of that, like I don't even think like if I doubt like a gay guy would be like interested in a survey that's specifically asking about like your sexual contact with girls in the first place. Rise of tube sites. Pornhub launched in 2007. It quickly became the most prominent among a whole host of tube sites offering free, seemingly endless pornographic videos. In 2018, more than half of Pornhub users in the US were under 34. Author John Ronson produced an entire podcast series about the far-reaching impacts of these sites called The Butterfly Effect. Among many other things, one of those impacts might be a fundamental change in how young men think about sex and interact with women. This theory, however, is very hard to track. Not only were the men in the general social survey not asked about their porn habits, but no prominent poll that I could find has attempted to link porn use to consistent sexual activity with partners. Research has shown that individuals who watch porn alone report lower satisfaction in their relationships than those who don't, or those who watch with a partner. But this doesn't specifically relate to the porn habits of the 27% of men not having sex in their 20s. A brief tangent: is thought that environmental factors and not an increase in porn addiction are responsible for the stark decrease in male sperm counts over the last several decades, just in case you were wondering. There are some other theories floating around, but none that I deem particularly credible. For example, the first Iron Man film, and thus the beginning of what we now call the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was released in 2008. Somehow I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is to blame in this instance. Wait, what? Okay, so that was a pretty good article. I think he brought up wait, was it a guy or a girl who wrote this? Usually they tell you. I guess it doesn't really matter. But this was a good article. He brought up some good points as far as like different reasons why male virginity might be on the rise. And I think all of them are pretty relevant, more or less. But I have some of these on my list already. I have some of these on my list already. I didn't even think about the whole the gay possibility though. I didn't really even consider that. But again, I think that's probably like a minor, if anything, that's probably like a more minor aspect to it. But my list has a lot of what he has. So I'm gonna go into what like my personal list. Why are more men single virgins at advanced ages? That's what I named this notepad. That's why I named it. Why are more men single virgins at advanced ages? And it's time for the Chad Marco take, right? And I have 8 reasons, and at the bottom I'm presenting a potential solution. And one thing I want to make clear, because whenever we have these conversations, it seems like everybody wants to put forth like one thing as being the reason. And I think, hold on, let me get a sip of water. I think something that's very important that we need to establish is that It's not one thing. Like everybody wants to put like their one theory up as being the sole reason. Certainly some things matter more than others. But I think that the truth of the matter is that it's several different factors that are responsible for this. And so I have this list, but I'm not like it's not in any particular order. But these are the 8 main reasons why I think male virginity is on the rise. Number 1, men are becoming less masculine. So there's a quote by Arthur Michael Humph, and it says, "Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times." And I think right now we are in a period of good times and weak men. Life is more comfortable than ever. We're not in a state of like constant war. Like there are wars going on in the world, but it's not like a big war where we're being drafted and forced into the military. You know, the wars we've been engaged in since like the 90s have been like, well, if you want to fight, come on, we'll take you, right? But it hasn't been like, oh, like we're forced into war. Then we have so many comforts like TVs and video games, and just technology, internet. A lot of these things are distracting us, or a lot of the comforts and luxuries of today that men enjoy don't help cultivate masculinity. And not only that, but you also have a lot of guys who are raised by single mothers, for example. That's another big thing. A lot of single mother raised boys. And when you look at the rates of single motherhood going up, that's going to be an effect, right? Women cannot raise boys to men. It can happen, right? It can happen. But even then, I would say that when that does happen, it's probably other environmental factors, like maybe a coach at school, being around very masculine friends, an uncle, or something like that. But women cannot raise boys to be men. And I think as I've gotten older, and I'm more aware of like my relationship with my mother and how she looks at things. I mean, just for example, right? This is just, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but this is just an example of what I'm talking about. My mom was complaining about going to the laundromat early in the morning and there being like vagrants there, right? Like homeless guys and shit. And I told my mom, I was like, if you're so worried, why don't you bring a weapon? Like, why don't you invest in pepper spray or a taser or something like that? And she just completely ignored what I was telling her. And it was kind of the same thing when we had the conversation about buying a firearm for the household. Again, it's like my mom is so afraid of guns and firearms. She would rather be a victim than to arm herself, right? And I know all women aren't like that, but it's going to be hard to find a man that's not willing to buy a gun if he can, that's not willing to buy a knife or some type of or invest in his own protection, right? This is something that you will typically see more with women, like ooh, I'm afraid of guns and shit like that. That's more of a female trait, and that's what I'm saying, right? That's the difference between a lot of men and a lot of women, right? And when you're a boy raised by a mother, those are the type of restrictions that you're under, right? She's gonna have you in a household where you're more likely to be a victim because she's not interested in the protection aspect of the family, because that's not her role. That's not, like, biologically, traditionally, that's not her role. Protection is not her role, right? And that's one of the things that you're lacking. And in fact, I remember when I was in school and I was being bullied, I can remember coming home and crying and shit, and my grandmother is there, my mom is there, and not once did they ever tell me to stand up for myself. But you can believe if it was a man in the house, he would have said, nigga, you don't knock them motherfuckers out, right? And so that's what I'm saying is that, as far as like the whole single motherhood thing, I think that's part of it. As far as like why men are less masculine, I think men, a lot of guys growing up now don't have masculine, strong male role models to look up to and to guide them, to be able to navigate the world more efficiently as a man, and really programming them to think in a more manly, masculine way. I think that's lacking. And then you also have like this I mean, just be honest, like you look at like the transgender movement, where you have men purposely feminizing themselves because they want to be women or they believe that they're women. You have, I think, also like this whole metrosexual thing where it's like men being feminine is being promoted. Like it's a lot of different things that are contributing to men being less masculine. But I do think that's a big part of it. And from what I researched, studies have shown that, and this is a quote, men's testosterone levels have been declining for decades. The most prominent, a 2007 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, revealed a substantial drop in U.S. men's testosterone levels since the 1980s, with average levels declining by 1% per year, right? So I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass. Like literally testosterone levels in men has been declining slowly over the years, 1% per year since the 80s. And I've heard some theories say that it could be like plastics and different chemicals in the food, whatever the case may be, but that might be part of it too. But I think that overall, men are becoming less masculine. Women are attracted to strong masculine men. So therefore, as men become less masculine, they become less attractive and capable of attracting women. So, number 2, video games, as well as pornography and other sex alternatives. I kind of put these together, even though I think they have a like different effects, but I thought it would be more convenient just to kind of smash these two together. So I'm gonna talk about pornography first, right? So the undeniable thing about pornography is that me myself being a shameless pornography enjoyer, right? One thing I understand about it is that pornography encourages you to masturbate more often. I have no doubt in my mind that I would masturbate less if I didn't have access to pornography. Pornography just, when you have, especially now with the constant flow and stream of free available pornography with all these different tags and genres and categories, when you really get into it and what turns you on and where to get it and whatnot, man, it can be a challenge to resist PMO, to resist masturbating to pornography. I've gotten much better control over it, but the simple fact is this: masturbating more often keeps you in a state of diminished sex drive. And I think that when you have pornography being so widespread and used by so many men, and it's even becoming like normalized, like men now can talk about porn, maybe not necessarily like in the middle of the mall or whatever, but amongst friends, it's not like, I remember when I was growing up, it was like we wanted to watch porn, but it wasn't cool to masturbate to it. Right? It was something that you watched, but you were lame if you were masturbating to it. Now it's different. It's like if you masturbate to pornography, it's not really seen as a big deal unless you're around like some Bible thumping motherfuckers. But other than that, it's so normalized. But like I said, we have so many guys indulging in this. You have to understand that our sex drive is not what it's supposed to be, because when you masturbate, without a doubt, it lowers your horny meter. it lowers your sex drive because you've satisfied that more or less, right? You might not have satisfied that urge for companionship and intimacy, but you have still you've scratched that itch, right? You're not gonna have the same level of motivation to go out there and have sex because your sex drive is diminished. And I think also just knowing that it's there, right? You might go out, you might see attractive women, you might feel attracted to them, you might want that. But then you know in the back of your mind that you can go home and you can masturbate and like whatever feelings you might have as far as like the attractive women in your life, look, okay, you can't have them. Or maybe you could, but it will be more effort than to just go home and masturbate to some porn, right? So that's a part of it too. And as far as like video games, I think one thing that people always say is that everything that a man does in one way or another is for the sake of obtaining sex. And I feel like video games prove that to be absolutely incorrect because video games, unless you're a professional gamer or something like that, video games are something that is not going to help you as far as attracting women at all. But we spend a lot of time playing video games. We enjoy playing video games a lot. And so why is this important? Why is this important? I think it's because video games and pornography, and this is why I put it together, these are very powerful, enjoyable distractions. When you look at the hours and the effort that men invest into video games, into getting good, into like, man, these 100-hour JRPGs and the endless amount of times you can invest into multiplayer online games and shit. I mean, it's really, it's quite significant. And one of the things like me being a 30-year-old virgin, it's like one of the things that keeps me from being worried about like being lonely or whatever is that I have these powerful, enjoyable distractions. You know, I have pornography, I have video games, I have anime, I have movies, like, and maybe at some point they won't hit the same, but right now I enjoy these activities quite a lot. You know, I can still go online, bring up some old horror movies and get lost in them and enjoy myself. You know, I have, man, more games than I got time to play. And I know once I load it up and get into it, I'm not thinking about bitches. I'm not thinking about women. You know, I'm thinking about how to beat this goddamn boss. Right. And so, and one thing I'll say too, when I was in the mental hospital, I might have told this story before, but when I was in the mental hospital, all I did was talk to girls. Like the whole time I was in there talking to bitches, young, old, fat, skinny. Like I was like a different person in there. And I think a lot of it was that I didn't have those distractions. I didn't have porn. I wasn't masturbating. I didn't have video games. I didn't have my music. All I was doing was working out, eating, and just like talking to girls. Like that's all I was doing. Of course, like socializing with the guys too. But whenever I had an opportunity to talk to the girls, like that's what the fuck I was doing, man. And so it made me realize that when you take away a lot of the distractions that we have, and it's like, man, it that can really encourage you to put yourself out there and maybe, you know, do a bit of, you know, flirting and shit. And I wasn't even doing it with the intent, like keep this in mind. I wasn't doing it with the intention of having sex. I was just bored. I was literally so bored that the most exciting thing in there was just any girl that I could potentially talk to. Like, I remember too, like one of the nurses was like beyond QT, right? Like she was beyond, like she was like this short white girl with a nice body, cute face. And the second I saw her, I went right in. I remember too, I sat right beside her and started flirting with her. I asked her if she had a boyfriend. She said, I have a fiance, and I never forget that shit. But I like no hesitation. And now I would I could never do something like that right now. Like I got too many video games. Okay, so number 3. I always get so parched when I do this. Hypergamy and the 80-20 rule. So the definition of hypergamy is basically, it's a term used in social science for the act or practice of a person marrying a spouse or higher caste or social status than themselves. It is mostly practiced by women. So when guys nowadays talk about hypergamy, it's essentially just talking about how girls tend to want to date up. Girls want guys who are obviously like, stronger than them, right? The masculine aspect, but taller, have more money, more friends, more whatever. Just it, like, they want to feel like they're upgrading when they are dating. And the problem with that is that because, one, a lot of guys who are above average or high or, in that upper echelon, that upper tier of men, they love to take advantage of hypergamy, right? They love the fact that they can have a different girl every night or a different girl every week or multiple women or basically a harem. There are very few men who occupy that level of being a high value man who don't take advantage of that. And these are the guys that girls want the most. And these guys are more than willing to play that game and have their little harem of 10, 20, maybe even 50 to 100 women, right? When you're talking about athletes and rappers and musicians and celebrities, social media influencers, famous content creators, or just the hottest guy in school, the big alpha male on campus, shit like that. Like, guys tend to take advantage of that. And I've said this a lot, but I believe that human beings, once you take away the restrictions, once you take away like enforced monogamy, when you take away people putting so much pressure on you to get married and to not have sex before marriage, to be monogamous, to be with one person, we've taken away a lot of those pressures and restrictions, and we've basically allowed humans to play the mating game in its raw form, in that tournament species way, where a minority of men have access to the majority of women. And that's when we go into like the 80-20 rule, right? And of course, I do believe that the 80-20 might be a bit of an exaggeration, right? It's not, but it also depends on how you look at it too. Because I think one of the problems with the 80-20 conversation is that people look at it like you're saying 80% of men aren't getting anything. Like 80% of men aren't having sex. And obviously that's not the case. But I think the problem when people present that argument, like they're using their standard of what it means to be successful with women is so low. They're basically saying that as long as you're having sex, you've succeeded. But that's obviously not true. I think 80-20 makes a lot more sense when you raise the bar, when you raise the criteria of what it means to be a successful man as far as like dating. I think when you look at it like, compare the sex lives and the quality and quantity of options compared from like the average guys. Look at the average man and look at their sex lives and their options compared to above average men, the top tier men. It's night and day. And when you look at just the numbers of it, again, maybe it's not exactly 80-20 as far as like, 20%, but whatever the case may be, it's definitely a minority of men who have these very good options available to them, a lot of options available to them, very robust, vibrant, fun, easy sex lives where it's not very difficult for them to attract and have sex and relationships with women. Whereas for the average guy, it tends to be either you got lucky, you were in the right place at the right time, or you put in a significant amount of effort, settled for less, you got a fat chick, something like that, right? And then just another important point, when you talk about things like lookism, for example, girls wanting guys, and not even just lookism, but this can also extend into like finances. Girls wanting guys who are 6 feet tall, right? A guy with a big dick, 6-figure salary, 6-pack abs. The things, women just have so many standards, and if you don't live up to those standards, then the quantity and quality of your dating options can be reduced dramatically. I know, just for example, I've talked about this before, but I like watching the Pineapple Show that Melly Monaco has. And it's like an online speed dating show where she brings up an attractive girl. Guys call in, they video chat. If the girl says pineapple, then Melly disconnects him and brings up the next guy. But one thing she always asks before they get started is, what are your preferences? And she always brings up height. And 9 times out of 10, those girls, they want a guy that's 6 feet tall or above. And the thing about it is, if you're a girl and you're dead set on getting a guy who's 6 feet tall or above, you've already eliminated like close to like 80 to 90, I think like 85% of men, at least in America, right? I think in America only like roughly 15 or 16% of men are 6 feet tall or above, something like that. So you've already eliminated like 3/4 or like, God, you've already eliminated at least 3/4 of the men in America, like just based on that one standard. We haven't even gotten to penis size, money, or like shape, muscles and being fit. And so this is what guys have to contend with. So I definitely think that hypergamy and the 80-20 rule, or more specifically female standards, are a big part of why male sexlessness is on the rise. Because it's so difficult to live up to the high standards that women want from the men that they would rather date. So the next one is, and this was one that was also brought up in that article, social media and dating apps. And I think this is something that a lot of guys have talked about before, obviously, but why I think it's so significant is that it's allowed women to market and connect themselves to men all across like never mind the country, but the county, the city, the state, then the country, and even the world, right? It's allowed women to essentially expose themselves to the world, to men all over the world, and say, look, I'm here, I exist, and if you have what it takes, you can have me, right? If you have the money, if you have the look, if you have the clout, the social media's clout, whatever, you can have me. And the reason why this is so significant is that you have to remember, before social media, most people only had access to the men and women in their area, right? So it's like, if you were a girl, let's say you were a girl in Pine County or whatever, right? And unless you would frequently leave that area, your boyfriend, your hookups, your lovers were more than likely going to be from that particular area, like that county or that city. right? Unless you are more mobile. People tend to be more mobile these days for sure. But generally speaking, before social media, you weren't able to easily connect with people in different parts of the state, you know? And it's like just look at Facebook, for example. I know Instagram has kind of become like the new young people thing and TikTok and all that shit. But Facebook just is a good example of what I'm talking about. You know, you're an attractive girl, you have a Facebook, you've added different people, like you've added different people that you went to school with, different people that you work with, and then people even outside of your immediate range start finding your profile and adding you and shit like that. You know, and so now, right, like I'm in North Carolina. You could be a girl in Tarboro, but you never been to Raleigh, right? You could be a girl who lives in Tarboro, but because you have a social media presence, you can connect to the guys in Raleigh. You can connect to the guys in Pine Tops, in Greensboro, in Greensville, in Rocky Mount. You can connect to different guys in different parts of the state, or even guys in LA, guys in Texas, guys in, like, that's what social media has done. So it's like, if you're not satisfied with the options in your immediate area, then you can look outside of that. And then again, you have a lot of guys who they do that. Like, and some guys have the money to fly girls from like state to state and shit like that. I remember my friend, he worked at a call center for a while. No, let me think. Now, I'm trying to get the story right, but it was either a girl, because remember, I'm in North Carolina. So it was a girl that he knew at the call center he worked at, or at college. I forgot which one. But he said that girl got flown out by DJ Academics or some shit like that, right? I don't know how true that story is, but I don't have any reason to not believe it, because this is something that just happens anyway, right? But he was saying that this girl that he knows, or at least was an associate of, he found out she got flown out by DJ Academics. Now, I'm pretty sure he's not in North Carolina. So that's just an example of what's going on now, right? Girls from my state, girls that from my area can get flown out by famous or semi-famous like YouTube rappers or whatever the fuck, right? And that's just something that's available to women now. And the other thing too is, women had to rely a lot more on guys approaching them in real life, and that's a lot more difficult than like sliding in DMs and shit like that. So now it's like, even guys who normally wouldn't like code approach, they can slide in DMs, and that's another thing that women have on their side. And then you also have like OnlyFans, and like you got things like OnlyFans or Twitch and simp culture too, right? It's not just how social media has expanded women's dating options, but it's also allowed them to receive so much attention from men, even men that they wouldn't have no interest in dating. They're getting attention from these guys. They're getting likes, they're getting donations. So that's a whole nother aspect to it too, where, because you have to understand, one of the side effects of like simp culture, so to speak, or beta orbiters, is that all of this plays into elevating and inflating the egos of women. As their followers go up and their likes go up and they get more social media clout, like their value is going up based on simps and betas and thirsty niggas, right? So not only are they getting money and attention, their value on the dating market is going up as well. They're more visible to a higher class of men, right? It's so funny. It's almost like poetry, man. Like they're being elevated by low tier men and becoming more visible to men of a higher tier, right? But that's definitely part of it too. Social media and dating apps. So the next one is the manosphere and the exposure of female nature. Now, when we talk about the manosphere, we could talk about, we could include Red Pill, MGTOW, groups like that. But, oh, excuse me. Oh, goddamn. Hold up. Okay. But the reason why I think this is a part of why male sexishness is going up. See, now we're getting into like the voluntary side of it, right? Because especially when you look at like MGTOW. MGTOW is men purposefully and intentionally avoiding sex and relationships. But on the red pill side of things, when we talk about the red pill, there's usually not an emphasis on avoiding sex and women, but I mean, at least as far as like not long term. But I think one thing that's similar between like the red pill and MGTOW, for example, is that in general, men are being taught not to focus on women. Like that's the game now for like average guys, is don't focus on women. Focus on your grind, focus on your purpose, right? That's what AMS always says, alpha male strategy. Instead of focusing on women, focus on your purpose, elevate your value on the dating market, then worry about women. So a lot of guys aren't necessarily like these sad basement dwelling incels. Some of these guys who aren't having sex is done intentionally because they're focusing on other things. Like I know one of my friends, he's been with quite a few women. He's been with, from what he said, maybe like 50 plus women over the course of his life. Now, of course, that's not like super alpha or nothing like that, but those are decent numbers. But recently, he's really just been out of the dating game and focusing almost entirely on himself. I think that maybe he might have had like a hookup or two in the past few years, but he's really slowed down a lot, and it's been done intentionally because he wanted to focus on himself. Right. He's not a virgin. He's had girlfriends and shit like that, but he made a conscious decision to not focus on dating. And that's another aspect to why male sexishness and is going up. Why a lot of men are not in relationships is because this red pill ideology, whether you agree with it or not, has only gotten bigger over time. When you look at the popularity of Kevin Samuels, Fresh and Fit, AMS, Rollo Tomasi, Coach Greg Adams, Anthony Spade, other guy, Dr. BOA. A lot of these guys, even O'Shea, as these guys become more popular, you look at their popularity and their influence on men. And one thing that they tend to have in common is that this idea of focusing on yourself, not being thirsty, having higher standards, not getting married. A lot of guys are promoting these ideas, and I'm saying again, you don't have to agree with them, but the fact is, these types of ideas are becoming more and more popular. Don't move in with women. Don't code approach women. Don't pay for dates. Monk mode. Like all this. Come on. Like these ideas, these rules are becoming more popular. And I think the thing about this particular strategy, though, what's problematic about it is that I definitely agree for the most part. Me personally, I agree with these strategies. But I think the problem with it is that while you're focusing on yourself, while you're focusing on raising your value, you're pretty much out of the dating game. Now, not all guys, but I think a lot of guys tend to go to the extreme, or you have some guys who are like below average or average, and they're using these strategies And for them, it's going to be worse because they don't have the level of attractiveness in that moment to practice these things and continue to date, right? Just for example, if you're telling guys to have higher standards, don't date fat chicks, don't date single moms and shit, that might be all you can get at your level. Right? But if you adopt this idea of not settling for that, then you're going to be out of the dating game until you raise your own value to get something better, right? And again, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, if we're talking about why more and more men are virgins, why more and more men are single or having less sex, you have to throw this in there. A lot of guys, this is done with intention, right? And a lot of the dating strategies promoted within the manosphere, it requires men to avoid women until creating self-value. And this takes a lot of time. And the other side that I was talking about was the exposure of female nature. A lot of these channels and personalities, they focus on social media content that shows the uglier side of women. Just think about on R9K, for example. They have those women hate threads. And those threads are filled with pictures and articles and examples of modern women just being absolute awful people, showing themselves being like so unattractive or doing bad things. And I think it deters men from wanting to enter the dating game in the first place. Like, just for example, you have like the whole Jeremy Meeks thing, right? And the men in general realizing that women have this thing for bad boys, right? This is an example of like female nature being exposed and making them look less attractive. And then you have like these things as far as like gold diggers being exposed, slut culture, I think a lot of these things, especially when you're talking about like social media, right? Like women kind of either exposing themselves or just being exposed as being like shallow, as being toxic, as being just all around just people that you don't want to deal with, right? And obviously that's not all women, but I think that like when you get involved in the manosphere, MGTOW, red pill, I think it's important, but it's unfortunate too, is that you're getting like this flood of negative examples of female behavior, right? And some of it is just based in their nature, but I think that it's kind of a one-sided, it's kind of one-sided in how it tends to portray women, right? When you dive into the manosphere and the red pill, they tend to focus on what can go wrong. They tend to focus on the type of women that you should avoid. And I think that has a big effect on men psychologically and how they perceive relationships. And then you go into MGTOW, right? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. I don't want to deal with it. So number 6, the quality of women has gone down. Now, I know that I already talked about, men becoming less masculine, and I think that's on our side, right? We can't just put everything on women. That's why I wanted to start off with that. But at the same time, I think the overall quality of women has gone down as well. The quality of men has gone down. That's for sure. But the quality of women has gone down too. And it's for different reasons, right? So, like one thing, like a big one, right, is the obesity rates. Women are fat as hell. Women nowadays are fat as hell. And, you got to keep in mind, like, I'm black. I'm in the black community. Obesity affects us more than just about any other race, from what I understand. But all across the board, as far as like race, even gender, obesity rates are going up. And one thing I know about guys is most guys don't want to date a fat chick. Like that's just That's very common. A lot of men do not want to date a fat chick. Some guys have a fetish, some guys are settled, but a lot of guys do not want to date fat chicks. Maybe like chubby with good fat distribution, but most guys tend not to want to date overweight women. And then when you look at, I forgot the exact numbers, but I think something like 30 to 40, I forgot, damn, it's somewhere from like 30 to like 45, 47% of women in America are like overweight. Don't quote me, but it's somewhere in that range between like 30 and 50%. And so let's just assume that it's 35%, right? Let's say 35% of women in America are overweight. All right, look at look at how many women have already been eliminated as an option for men who refuse to date fat girls. And I'm talking sloppy, fat, stinking bitches, not the big titty, fat ass, thick, like perfect fat distribution fat chick. No, I'm talking moon face, big belly, no tits, like thighs stuck together, but then the legs going out, right? Like I'm talking like sloppy, ugly moon face fat, right? Most niggas don't want to date a girl like that. And with so many women being overweight, some guys, look at some guys will, right? But like I said with the previous point, with as far as like the red pill and MGTOW, and specifically like men refusing to settle and having higher standards, you know, when you're confronted with so many bad options, right? Fat ass women and shit like that, and you are not gonna settle. Like me, I wouldn't date a fat sloppy bitch. So right there, if 35% of women in America are overweight, that's 35% of women that I don't have the option of being with because of my own standards. And so I think that's part of it. Also promiscuity. Whether women like it or not, promiscuity tends to be an unattractive trait for women, as far as like, at least as far as men wanting to wipe you up. As far as men wanting to seriously date you, make you their girlfriend, make you their wife. Some guys are just savages. They don't care, right? Some guys are cucks. Me personally, I do find it unattractive. I'm not one of these guys where I demand a virgin, right? But I do think that for me, promiscuity is an unattractive trait. I could go into it more, but you know, that's a whole different conversation. But I think that that's part of it too. I think that women, since the sexual revolution, since becoming more sexually liberated, you know, they're able to have sex with a higher volume of men and not receive the same amount of shame. You know, it's like you look at the LGBT community and how they have pride. Now for women, you have like the slut walk. You know, women embracing being promiscuous, women embracing being sex workers and things like that. And me personally, again, I find it unattractive, but I'm not like judging them. I'm not like, oh, fuck these whores, right? I mean, look, they have a right. If you want to be promiscuous, look, do it. I'm just saying, you know, it's not attractive to me, right? To me, it's no different than if a girl said, look, Chad Marco, you like New Balances, but I don't, right? I wouldn't take it personally. If a girl said, look, Chad Marco, you have an Android phone, that turns me off. I wouldn't take it personally, right? And that's how I feel about promiscuous women. I don't hate them like as a person. I just find promiscuity to be unattractive. And I think a lot of guys feel that way as well. And as women become more promiscuous, they're becoming less attractive as well. Another thing is single mothers. A lot of guys do not want to date single mothers. The reasons are very fucking obvious. I mean, that's God. I did a whole night walk vlog about this shit, but just to quickly cover the basics, you gotta raise another man's kid. You're not going to be able to enjoy the level of attention and focus from her that you would with a girl who doesn't have kids, right? That's one thing that a lot of guys don't talk about, is that when you meet a girl and neither one of you have kids, there's that period of where you both can just focus so much on each other, and it's just like this mutual love bombing and just laying up and fucking and dating and living carefree. But when a child comes into the equation, your attention has to be divided between the child, adult responsibilities, and each other. And when you're a guy without kids and you get into a relationship with a single mother, off the rip, like, you already in a situation where you're not able to enjoy the undivided attention of your lover, of your girlfriend. Another thing is past boyfriends, baby daddy issues. He might be a thug. He might be a criminal. He might be fucking crazy, right? That's another thing. You got another man coming into your castle, your situation, and he has a right to see his child. Then, I mean, it overall, it's so much baggage for a child that's not even yours. So that's another thing. Single mother rates have gone up a lot over the years, and that's another aspect or something else that's making women less attractive overall. And then you have things like, student loan debt, more women going to college, but that's also more debt. That's another thing, niggas. You gotta think about that too, right? You get with a girl, she might be young and attractive, but shit, she might have a lot of student loan debt. You get into a relationship with her, okay, well, how are we gonna pay for this debt? Now her debt is your debt, right? You gotta think about shit like that. But I think another thing is, and this is one of the biggest problems I'm seeing with women, is that a lot of them are just toxic. Women are more combative and argumentative than ever. I see a lot of relationships where it's a lot of fighting, it's a lot of arguing, it's a lot of drama. And it seems like a lot of women, like, they feed off that shit. Like, they fuel the fire of chaos and drama. Like, they're agents of chaos. I'm not trying to use that to say all women are like that, but in my environment, I see a lot of that. And a lot of guys now just don't want to deal with that shit. Guys now want to have, more relaxed, chill lives. Men want peace. Men want quiet, and a lot of girls, they're not providing that. They want to fight. They want to argue. They want to start shit. Literally, like, it's girls out there just want to fucking start shit. And niggas don't want to deal with that anymore, especially not someone like me. And so, that's my point there. The overall quality of women is going down alongside the quality of men. Got to make that clear. But, look, as we're both lowering in quality, we don't want to deal with each other. So here's another one, and the article covered this one too. Men are less economically attractive. So obviously you have one aspect of this is you have women in the workforce. I forgot the exact numbers, but there was a time where women were not able to work the jobs that men did. And then once those doors were opened up, and then more and more doors opened up over time and continue to open up, they basically made it so like women made the work. They made the workforce a lot more competitive, because now men have to compete with women for jobs. And also, obviously, I don't think women working is necessarily a bad thing, but I think one of the unintended consequences of that is that it's made men less attractive, because women are less dependent on men for their money. Certainly they still love resources and all those types of things. But, if a woman can easily get a job where she's making $13, $14 an hour, we're talking like low level shit here, right? But still, it's not going to be, you as an average guy can't really use your income as a bargaining chip when you're making the same amount of money. You know, I mean, that's cool. Like, okay, you're working, but hypergamy is always a factor, right? You're $14 an hour and her $14 an hour. That's not really a strong incentive to date you. You know, she's gonna look for the guy who's making 100K a year or 75K a year or something like that, right? And so I think that's part of it too. Just the simple fact that women can work, it's eliminated one of men's strongest bargaining chips in dating. You know, but again, not trying to say women shouldn't work. I just think it's an unfortunate unintended consequence of women being allowed within the workforce, especially at like higher levels in terms of like earnings, is that, you know, when if women can do it for themselves, then it's hard to use that to try to entice them into dating you. It's like, why date you for that when I can do that and more, right? And the other thing is women outnumber men when it comes to college enrollment. I believe it's like 2 women for every man. And I know a lot of times they get like useless degrees, but men do the same thing. So you could have to imagine like it's probably more women who are getting into higher earning careers than men. And women tend not to want to date down economically, right? If she's making good money, she's not gonna want to date a 9 to 5 McDonald retail worker type motherfucker. And another thing is a lot of guys are broke. I'm broke, right? A lot of guys are broke. Again, guys not going to college, guys not learning a trade or whatnot. You know, I'm just keeping it real. A lot of guys are broke. A lot of men are living with their parents. I live with my mom. And that's definitely part of it too. Like some guys are just straight up broke. They just, and it's not to say, and I'm not even saying like unemployed. I'm saying like working at McDonald's, you a bus driver or some shit, you know, janitor, retail worker, you know, just basic entry level jobs. That's not enough for a lot of women. You know, women want to, even where I'm from, in, you know, well, not deep in the hood, but around the hood in the black community, right? You got a lot of women that they want to live ghetto fabulous. You know, they want to live in the projects, but still have a nice car, still have Jordans and iPhones and shit like that. So if you broke, then you're not going to be able to satisfy them. But I think another thing too is men tend to be comfortable with less and living like a minimalistic lifestyle. I think that's another aspect of it too. You know, it's not always that you're broke because you're lazy. I think that, and this might even go into like the whole MGTOW red pill thing too, is like when you're not competing for women, when you're not living your life based on, I want to protect and provide for a woman, I want to have a family, you don't need to go above and beyond, right? It's easy to do. It's so easy to do enough for yourself, right? Like, even like, I'm the perfect example. It's not that I couldn't get a better job and move out. I could do that, but then I'd be working, living paycheck to paycheck, you know, working a lot of hours. Would I be happy like that? I don't think I would be. Certainly I don't want to live with my mom forever, right? But I'm just saying, like, the option of just getting a better job and slaving for pussy is there for me, right? It's right there. It's not like I couldn't do it. I just don't want to, right? I'm so satisfied with you know, my basically minimalistic lifestyle, right? Most people will look at my situation and say like, oh man, what the fuck? But to me, goddamn, it's like a little paradise. And so number 8 is analysis paralysis, or the black pill. So I know personally, right? When I see girls, I might have the thought that I could have a chance with them. But then I remember all the reasons why a girl wouldn't like me, right? I think back to a lot of the reasons that I already laid out before, right? Men are less masculine, hypergamy, I'm not tall enough, my dick is too small, I don't have enough money, I'm not fit enough, whatever, right? All the top tier men I'm in direct competition with. I think about these things. And I think about how all these reasons why a woman wouldn't like me and how low my odds of getting a yes from her would be if I asked her out, you know. And even more so, like the odds of her not being toxic and being detrimental to my situation. And I think the thing about me, you guys know that I'm a pretty happy, optimistic person, right? But I'm very realistic too. And I think that the good thing about the black pill is that it reveals a lot of truths in terms of like female standards, the importance of looks, how our genetics can give us certain advantages and disadvantages, not just with women, but in life in general. But the downside, I think, to that is that I think it does so much damage to men's confidence. And that's what I mean by analysis paralysis. I think that because of the black pill and the internet and men like studying what girls like and don't like, I think it's had such a negative effect on men's confidence, because confidence is definitely important when it comes to attracting women, not just in how they perceive you, but also in your self-belief to think that you could attract a woman, right? But a lot of guys nowadays have every reason not to feel confident. And I think when you consume so much of the black pill, and when I say black pill, I'm not even specifically talking about like content created by incels, because you can find plenty of black pill in like TikTok videos, general social media, YouTube, TV, right? You can find like the black pill is everywhere. In reality, I remember one time I heard my mom talking shit or making fun of some guy because he had a small dick or some shit like that. Like my mom, right? I mean, that's a black pill moment in real life right there. And we're exposed to a lot of the black pill, whether you're talking about incel content, TikTok content, YouTube content, Twitter, real life. And I think it's having a very negative effect on men's confidence, you know, because I think a lot of guys just feel like either you're not good enough for women or women aren't good enough for you, right? And I talked about this when I forgot the name of the Nightwalk vlog video, but I was talking about why it makes sense for incels to feel the way that they do. And it really does. When you look at dating in such an analytical way, like, dude, all the stats and the graphs and the data, just, it works against you. And when you study that type of stuff too much, it destroys your confidence. And I think that a lot of men just don't feel good enough. I think a lot of men's confidence has just been destroyed because of the black pill, more or less. Just being exposed to, female standards and what they like and what they don't like, and realizing that you don't measure up in so many different ways. You know, I think that's really what this point is. I think male confidence is just at an all-time low when it comes to feeling like, you know, women like me. You know, I can get a decent girlfriend. I think that is a big fucking problem. I think male confidence has just been fucked. It's just fucked right now, for real. So those are my 8 reasons for why more men are single virgins at advanced ages. So what is the solution, right? I don't know. I don't know, but I will say this because when Abe Shinzo was assassinated, all those have sex memes started coming up, right? And so obviously there's an issue in Japan where a lot of people aren't dating, having sex, marrying, and having kids and whatnot. And that issue is now becoming more of a problem in the West as well, in different countries. And I see, to me, it seems like men are always criticized the most for this. Like all the focus is put on men. Like, why aren't you growing up? Why aren't men being men and manning up and marrying those single moms and fat shit? Like, why, right? Why aren't men manning up? I feel like so much of the focus is put on, what men are or are not doing. And I see an extreme lack of listening, right? It's like people are not listening to what men are saying. They're not really looking at the situation for what it is, right? They're not looking at how, okay, yeah, the quality of men has gone down, but they're not acknowledging how the quality of women has gone down. They're not acknowledging like female standards. They're not acknowledging the effects of like social media and dating apps and whatnot. They're not looking at the whole picture. And it's just like they just want to shame guys into just forcing themselves into a game that's so rigged against them, into a game that's just more and more just seems like it's not worth it. And my point is really just this. I think that outside of like some catastrophic like world culture changing event, this is going to be a continuing trend. And I think if you really want men to put more effort into dating and having sex, again, it's a complicated issue. There isn't just like one thing, but I can say this: people need to understand that if you want that, men have to look at dating and say, yes, I want to play this game. Yes, like this is worth it. I think that old MGTOW saying of the juice isn't worth the squeeze is that's it right there, man. Like that right there is going to be, if people don't acknowledge that, if people don't look at that, whether you agree with it or not, that's how a lot of guys feel. It's not worth it. Either I'm not good enough or the girls are not good enough. Either way, that's how a lot of guys feel. And I think if we don't acknowledge that, we're not going to make any progress. I think that people have to realize that for men and women a lot, right? But we're talking about guys here. It's a big sacrifice and investment to pair up with a woman and deal with everything that comes with that, especially once you throw marriage and kids into the equation. And I think that if you want guys to play into that, if you want guys to buy into the system, so to speak, you have to set it up so that guys feel like it's worth it. And I think the worst thing about our culture, our societies, is that more and more it just seems like it's not worth it. But nobody's listening to the complaints of men. They're just saying, man up, just do it, right? But that's not gonna work. I'm here to tell you right now, that's not gonna work. These niggas don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. If men don't feel like it's worth investing in, if they don't feel like it's worth putting in the effort, taking the risk, they're just not gonna do it. Right? More and more men are going to either take themselves out of the game, or based on their genetics or economic inferiority, they're going to be excluded from the game. Right? But that's a different issue. But I think that's how, moving forward, I just think that's how we should look at it. If you want a solution, if you want to make a change, I think that that's going to be a big part of it. You have to make it, you have to give people incentive to want to invest, to put in effort, to take risks. You have to make it like men should be excited about entering the dating game. Men should be excited about flirting. Men should be excited about owning their own home. Men should be excited about getting married. Men should be excited about having kids. And that's not the state of the world. That's why all these people have is shaming. That's all they can do. All they can do is shame you and say you're not a man. You're not this, you're not that. Guess what? We don't give a fuck. You can shame till you're blue in the face. We don't give a fuck. We don't care. They don't care. It is what it is. And like I said, until people start listening and actually paying attention and realizing that if you want men to walk that path, if you want men to be that, to be those sex having married motherfuckers, you have to make that lifestyle appealing. The state of the world has to be in such a state where that's appealing. Like you want that. And I think more and more over time, we are straying away from that. More and more, it seems like being single is better. More and more, it seems like being a virgin is actually better than at least dating at the average level, right? Being Chad is always the best, but that's not available to most people anyway. But that's my take on the matter. That's what I think are the top 8 reasons for men being wizards and single as fuck. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Next, we're going to have my take on the virgin levels. The virgin level meme. This is the Chad Marco virgin level meme. Stay tuned. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the main topic. Now we have the TOD, the thread of the day. And so this one is definitely within the theme of this episode of the podcast. So as you can see by the picture to your left, there is the cover for the movie, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, starring Steve Carell. I think that's his name. But this is your typical R9K virgin thread. So let's get right into it. So the OP says, virgins report in. Who is the oldest male and female virgin here? I am a 33-year-old male virgin. Can anyone here top these legendary stats? Bow down to my supreme wizardly powers, you degenerate sex havers, right? 33, that's pretty, yeah, he's got about 3 levels over me, so that's solid. But he's not much different from my situation, really. So this guy says, only did gay shit with my cousin as a young kid that has made me even more extremely depressed in these recent years. I am facially a Chad, but it's nullified by being a sad manlet. Have never touched a female outside of family in anything more than a less a second accidental hug. Waiting until organ failure, got some problems with my kidneys that might be something big, or to hang myself with a belt. So he said, I only did gay shit with my cousin as a young kid. I wonder, I hope it was at least consensual, but that sort of thing can always be fucking traumatic because you're not really like, when you're a young kid, you're not really aware or completely in control. You're basically like sleep when you're a kid, just almost like sleepwalking. Right. And that's got to be kind of fucked up though. If your first sexual experiences happen to be with a man and you're heterosexual or at least primarily attracted to women, that could be an issue too. Because it's like, oh, fuck. My first experience was with a damn man. Okay, so this guy says, be socially awkward, shy, and probably a little autistic. Managed to get by very well in the sexual marketplace just because I'm a 9 out of 10. Yep. But why would you post? Why would you post? But it kind of proves the idea that, looks are more important than personality. People will always debate that though to the end of time. But me personally, I think looks are a much stronger tool than personality. But I think the problem is when we have this conversation, people always use the example of the guy that's like hot but completely like essentially like someone that's an 8+ out of 10 in looks but a 0 in personality, right? And that's just not even realistic. Most people are going to be around average in personality at least. That's why I think looks are so much more important, because I think it basically, the way I see it, you will do a much better job, or you will attract more women being a 10 in looks and a 5 in personality than being a 10 in personality and a 5 in looks. I put it like that. That's the best way I can put it. This guy says, that's pretty good. I'm a 24-year-old female virgin. I'm asexual and pretty repulsed by the act. The one time I tried to have sex, I had a panic attack. I do want to do it with my boyfriend someday because I really love him and I know how much it would mean to him. He's been very patient and never pressured me, so he deserves it when my brain is ready. I would hate to be, I ain't gonna lie, I would hate to be with a girl like that, man. Like, that just sounds so boring. Go fuck, Like, man, if I get a girl, like, I know I'm Mr. Virgin guy, but if I get a girl, I'm trying to get nasty, bro. I'm trying to get disgusting. I can't be with a girl like that. So this guy says, I'm male 32, a virgin who lives with his mom. The virgin part I don't give a fuck about. I just wish I could hold a job without burning out. Without a stable income, it makes it too risky to live on my own, which I really wish I did because living at home is painful. Anyway, sex. I've never really cared too much about sex. Not quite asexual though, because I like a good fap now and then. I nearly had a chance to dip my dick when I was living with some friends, but had beer dick. And I wasn't really into her. I only wanted to do her so my mates would stop taking a piss and calling me a virgin. I finally figured out what might be up with me the other day. I was reading the Wikipedia page about schizoid personality disorders, and it was like someone had wrote a biography about me. Everything but 1 or 2 points applied to me. You know what? And I kind of experienced the same thing though. Like the whole schizoid personality thing. I don't like the term schizoid because that just makes you sound crazy as fuck. But some of the traits I do feel like, or at least used to apply to me, right? But I would say like some combination of like avoidant personality or schizoid personality, like some of those traits, like I have felt like applied to me, at least in the past. And then this guy replies, welcome to the schizoid team. There are no meetings here and we do not communicate with each other. Nice joke. So this guy says, I'm no longer a virgin, but I was until I was 39 and 9 months old. First time was on my wedding night. I'm still happily married to her. Wow, so you're saying there is hope? But I'm guessing, oh, there's a guy replying underneath him, by the way. Wow, so you are saying there is hope? But I'm guessing your wife is an old used up cum dumpster who was ready to settle down. And then the guy replies back, he says, he's quoting about there being hope. He says, possibly, Luck played a huge role in my case. I'll leave it to you to decide if you want to hope to get as lucky as I did. Oh, excuse me. Basically, I had decades of extremely horrible luck, followed by a single stroke of amazing luck. It totally sucks that it's all based on luck, but that's the way it works. And see, that's one thing that I think that I believe as well. For average guys, a lot of it is luck, right? That's why you will see guys who, hold on, let me turn my back porch light off. That's why you will see some guys who seem to just have like this, like, I'm not going to say perfect, but, this sought after situation where they're young, they're either married or in a long-term serious relationship with a cute girl who's loyal, who might have been a virgin or at least not very sexually experienced. You see situations like that. And a lot of times people will point to these guys like, look, they're average. So certainly there's no issue in the dating market, but they don't account for like the luck aspect of it. This guy, like he said, extremely horrible luck, but then had a stroke of amazing luck out of nowhere at 39. So, but I think a lot of it for average guys can be luck. But I'm guessing your wife is an old used up cum dumpster who's ready to settle down. And he says, no, my wife was a virgin like me. A big thing we had in common was our mutual reluctance to enter a relationship due to fear of getting hurt. The process of getting to trust each other took many months, requiring lots of dedication and hard work. We're two very unusual and shy people who just had the good fortune to find each other over the internet. I wonder how he found her though, but to a certain degree I can relate because I think that a lot of my hesitance to enter the dating game is based on not wanting to, I wouldn't say not getting hurt, right? Because I think that's almost like an insult. Like, oh, you're just scared of getting hurt. But I think to put it in a way I think is more accurate is, I don't want to fuck up my happiness. I don't want to disrupt the peace and harmony of my life. And it seems like more often than not, relationships tend to result in that. Again, that's my experience looking at the relationships around me. But that's why I've always been so hesitant to enter the dating game, or at least a big part of it, right? Because I just felt like more often than not, it probably just wouldn't be worth it. So I can kind of relate to how they felt, but I wonder, it would be interesting to run into that type of girl, right? Because I think the problem with me would be, I don't think I would have the patience to put in as he says, the dedication and hard work. I don't think I would have been able to do that. And then on top of that, he married her. Me personally, I don't want to get married. I think marriage overall does not benefit men. But that's a whole different podcast and Nightwalk vlog in of itself. But I think that's why, even though he got lucky, maybe that would inspire some guys. But this sort of situation doesn't really inspire me much. Because you still have to look at the amount of effort he had to put in and the sacrifice of entering into a bad deal, which is marriage, in order to keep her, right? So I don't really see this as being like too amazing. He did get lucky, right, from his perspective, but I guess I'm just a lot more jaded when it comes to my perspective on relationships and shit. So I kind of see it as a win-loss. A win because he found his counterpart, but a loss because it required hard work and marriage to make it work. So this guy says, it's not missing out on it that hurts. It's being told in the most primal, direct way possible that you're unwanted, right? And so I can kind of understand that, because if your ego is wrapped up in how women perceive you in being like, being attractive, right? Then I can see how that could really bother you, because it's almost like nature is telling you that you're not worthy. Nature is kind of telling you in one or more ways, you're inferior to the other guys around you. So the guy under him says, I'm about a month away from being able to star in the movie in OP's image. Before anyone asks, yes, I'm autistic. Think Chris Chandler, but poorer and with even worse fits of rage. I was raised by a single mother who has a long list of problems with schizophrenia. At the top, followed closely by borderline personality disorder and extreme paranoia. Let's just say that scene in Joker where he's giving his mother a bath and she's talking about how Thomas Wayne would help them hit way too close to home for me. But you remember when I was talking about why men tend to be, why more men are virgins nowadays, I mentioned the whole, single mother thing. And I'm not saying that's his only issue, right? But the combination of being autistic and raised by a single mother, that's like combining dog poop and cat poop. Like you can't do it. That's a bad combo, man. Like what the fuck you supposed to do with that? Even as someone who was autistic, if he had a good father in his life, he could have been a more like focused, masculine type autistic guy. I mean, that can happen, right? I don't know. But man, that's a terrible combination. So this poster says 19-year-old female virgin. I guess I still have time, but it's difficult because shut-in neat, unironic ass speed, don't even have in real life friends, uninteresting body, want to do it with someone I actually love. I'm getting desperate though. I've been considering either asking my dad for a vibrator or attempt incest, but I don't have the courage for any. This is a weird post. I don't even know where to begin. 19-year-old female virgin. Let's assume that this is an actual female, right? So 19, that's not really extreme. That's for a girl, because it tends to be much easier for them to get laid. You do have to question that. I mean, just look at the replies. I mean, that right there tells you everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? What's that about? 8? Yeah, about 8. Okay. And okay, let's break it down some more. Shut in neat. Okay. Unironic ass speed. So okay, that's the thing. Don't have in real life friends. An interesting body. That's all right. That might be the key. Like if I don't know, like if she's a fat sloppy moon face bitch, then yeah, like that combined with everything else, you're gonna be a virgin. But what's funny about it, I've been considering asking my dad for a vibrator, or I mean, that's just so weird. It's too weird to even believe, dude. Like this is just, I can't believe that girls like this even exist. I'm sorry. So this guy says, 24 KHV here. I attribute it mostly to being 5'4" and having fairly reclusive, somewhat spurgy. Hold up. That's good. Somewhat spurgy tendencies. To be honest though, I think I could lose it relatively easily if I actually made an effort. That's how I feel. Though anxiety hinders the desire to make that effort, so who knows if it even makes a difference. I think I have decent looks and am somewhat musically talented in a way that girls tend to like, but combine my height, how I rarely socialize, and the fact that I actively avoid discussing or showing people my music, then I think it's pretty easy for me to have remained a virgin despite what I like to think are some attractive qualities. Look, I promise I didn't write this. This guy sounds a lot like me though, except I'm 30 and I'm 5'8", so we do have some differences there. But I used to have like anxiety, not so much now. Now I feel a lot more comfortable in my own skin and around people. I can be a little awkward still because I tend to be in my head too much. But anxiety isn't really an issue for me anymore. But let's continue. Even still, I think I've noticed a few girls over the years give me positive signals or act sort of flirty. Me too. I never really made anything of them, partially due to fear, partially due to me not being that interested in them. Not sure if that makes me vocil or not, but whatever. Man, this guy, man, sounds a lot like me. Even to the point of, noticing girls over the years give you positive signals. Like there have been times where it's like I felt like it seemed like a girl might have done something to, because girls are different. We all know, like, when girls are choosing, when girls like a guy, they use like subtle tactics to get their attention. Like they use positioning and shit like that. Like I can remember one time I was in Walmart and I was walking down the aisle, and I saw a girl coming my way. I take a right, like before I cross paths with her, I take a right and I go through the clothing section. I take a right and I go forward. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going around her, right? She was coming my way and I hit a hard right into the clothing section to go around her, right? And so I make the right, I go forward, and then I make a left, assuming that she kept going straight past where I would have been. Somehow she ended up turning around and meeting me like as I was taking that left, right? And so maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's one of those little moments that I noticed, right? Where I was actively trying to avoid her and go around her, and she ended up turning around and then meeting me anyway. Now, nothing happened because I just, again, it's so subtle. It's like, what the fuck am I I still don't know. It's just like, that was weird, but I don't know. And so all that happened was we just ended up walking past each other anyway. But based on my understanding of female choosing signals, right? If she was choosing, then that's called positioning, right? She was trying to make sure that I saw her. Maybe she felt like I didn't see her the first time. I did. I was just avoiding her. And so she wanted to make sure that we crossed paths so that she could position herself for me to notice her and potentially talk to her. But that's kind of bullshit girls do. But that could have been either or. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe she went the wrong way and that's why she turned around. I don't know. But that's me and his experiences are very similar, even down to not showing your music to people. So this guy says, how the fuck does this even happen? Honestly, I want to know, how does one go this long and not have sex? No matter how physically ugly you are, there are females that will fuck you. Even beside that, there are prostitutes. In the most sexually active time in human history, how does this happen? I don't know if he's being serious or not. Sometimes people say that and they be saying it as a joke, but let's assume he's serious. So we got some replies under him. So this guy is OP. He says, OP here, it's a combination of things for me. I am naturally introverted. I got bullied growing up, which destroyed my self-esteem and confidence. I matured physically much later than average. I have spent most of my teenage and adult life either depressed or on antidepressants, both of which lower interest in sex and kind of numb emotions and attractions to people. I went to university and did a course which is 99% male, and then I got a job at a small company with all male employees, so no way to meet anyone there either. I don't know, man. How is it supposed to happen for me? I tried going clubbing once when I was at uni and I fucking hated it and never went again. That whole scene just isn't my thing at all. I mean, this is just, if you want to know how it happens, that's the post to read. I mean, that'll do it. I'll put it like that. All that, yeah, that'll do it. And then this guy replies, honestly, Anon, I don't feel like I'm that abnormal of a person, but sex seems like some kind of fictional thing. It's so many layers out of my reality that it feels like it's some freak natural phenomena, like getting struck by lightning. I realize it's possible, but I don't really think it's going to happen due to how unlikely it is. And that's kind of how I feel too. It's like there's almost this sense of like disbelief that sex, and even more so like I can believe sex is real. It sounds so stupid saying it out loud, but I think the idea of being in a relationship, that's one that gets me. And the idea that, in fact, let me be more specific. I think what seems unreal to me is the idea that a girl that I'm attracted to could be attracted to me. Now, I certainly believe that I could get with a fat, sloppy, gorilla-looking bitch with a moon face. Like that's that's very believable. But what the vision in my head, in my mind, when I think of a relationship and having sex, it's with the girls that I find attractive. Maybe not necessarily a model or Instagram model, Stacy type, but just a man. Even like a solid 6 or a 7, right? Like imagining having sex with someone like that, even more so being in a relationship with them, it seems almost unreal. It seems it's like the older I get, the more like detached I feel from that reality. So I understand where he's coming from. So this guy says, your little fantasy of the good old days neglects the fact that there was less on offer too. So I think he's replying to somebody who was talking about like those traditional old days. So unless you were a Chad, you married what you could get as long as you could tolerate it, because it was socially expected to get married in order to not be considered a fuck up. The loving, perfect fantasy wife was a pipe dream for most men back then too. They just didn't have the internet to whine about it, so they found hobbies that let them get away from the wife and to hang out with their buddies who were in the same situation. You think arranged marriage will get you the woman you want? Don't be ridiculous. If you were the kind of guy who would get his pick of the offerings, you wouldn't need it in the first place. You'd get assigned one of the leftovers. The women, any of the guys with status already rejected. And I think that's a good point too, because you see a lot of guys, pining for the old days, when women were traditional and men were men. Right, those John Wayne days, Elvis, and I don't know, goddamn, World War II, right, those days. But while it was true, it probably was a lot easier for guys back then to find a wife. You got to keep in mind, man, like hypergamy is eternal. Hypergamy is eternal, right? So even back then, I would say this, the good thing about the past is that girls weren't as fat. That's the one thing I will say. Girls were not as fat. I think imagine being in those traditional times with arranged marriages, like with something like that. But now when like half of women are fucking fat, and then you get linked up, stuck, and chained down to a fat moon face bitch. Oh God, that sounds like hell. So I get why people they look back to the past and imagine how much better it would be, but it definitely wasn't perfect. And especially when we look at it from the female side of things. I know we like to just act like we control female sexuality and we want to limit their options, but women didn't fight for sexual liberation for nothing. They didn't want to get tied down to beta males and shit like that. They didn't like that shit either, right? So it was there were definitely good aspects to it. But it came at a lot of sacrifice on both sides for men and women. So this guy says, I'm 22 now, but I won't be for long. Just thought I'd remind you all that you've made it to be older than Elliot Rodger without snapping and killing everyone. I think we all collectively deserve to give ourselves a pat on the back on the day of retribution this year. Yeah. Let's clap for that. We didn't go fucking bonkers and postal and kill everybody because of our virginity. Damn, Elliot Rodgers, man. I was just looking at him, like pictures of Elliot Rodgers recently, and I was just thinking like, damn, like what the hell was wrong with this guy? It's crazy to me that someone could go to those lengths over being a virgin, because we're like the polar opposites in how we perceive our situation, our virginity, our not being in a relationship. I mean, it's like night and day, black and white. Our perception of the state that we're in is black and is so different, right? And he was 22. I'm fucking 30. right? I'm more positive and embracing of it at 30 than he was at 22. I mean, so damn, what the fuck was up with this guy? So this guy says, 47-year-old virgin, some words of advice. It only gets worse from here, guys. And that was the thread of the day. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Next, we will have comments, so stay tuned. Okay, so that was today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But of course, next we got to do some comments. So we're going to get into that before I get out of here. So let's get started. So Alfonso Avila says on the Won't Go Out Today official video, damn, bro, I never knew you were built. Stay on that grind for real. Love your music, by the way. Yeah, you know, it's what can I say? What can I say? You know, I was at my friend's house the other day, and his mom came over, and his mom, I guess she hasn't seen me in a while, and I had my tank top on, and she was like, you know, she was she didn't compliment me, but you know, she was admiring the muscles, you know. And I started like flexing and doing like the yeah. She was like, I should have never said nothing. But yeah, man, I be getting it in, especially during the summer. Like I've been having a blast. Like I like to go out. I like to go out in the backyard and work out during the summer because it's the sun is out. It's hot. I love it, man. I be having a blast doing it. Like I'm always in the best shape of my life during the summer. But yeah, I love working out. I think a lot of my happiness is just based around taking care of my body, really. So Zeon Don says on the Nightwalk vlog, episode 22, embracing my virginity was the best decision I ever made. Copium the video. You know, I understand why people might say that, you know, and I thought, I was like, man, people hear this, they're gonna think I'm fucking crazy. Right? They're gonna think I'm crazy, but you know, I don't think that's the case at all. I 100% mean it, you know, but it's just like what I was talking about, man. It's like, one thing I know is about life, people don't appreciate the things you don't do. It's like, if I was out here fucking and in relationships in my early 20s, and let's say, you know, I ended up getting girls pregnant, put on child support and all that shit, y'all would have been looking at me like, oh, this another dumbass nigga on child support. Right? I would have been a statistic. And it's just, oh, look at this dumbass nigga. Here I am at 30, avoided all that bullshit, and I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor. But then what do people say now? Oh, it's a coat, right? That's the thing about it's like, you can't really win, because the problem is people always look at this issue from they always think about the best case scenario, right? It's like, if you're a virgin, they don't think about all the bad things you've avoided. They just look at the fact that you don't have that ideal situation. They don't look at the fact that you avoided all the bullshit too. They don't look at all the negatives that you avoided. And you know, as I've gotten older and I see so many guys around me suffering as a direct result of their sexual indulgences, it becomes more and more clear to me that, damn, I made a good ass decision, right? And I go a step further. Y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but being a virgin, embracing being single is a cheat code to life. It's a fucking cheat code to life. And I'm gonna explain that. I'm gonna explain that on the Nightball vlog, maybe the next one or like. But it's a cheat code, and I'm gonna break down why later. So, what a story mark says on the Way of the Samurai episode of the Botcast. Good Botcast. Good point. Reading my comment around why doesn't a man think about a woman's height when it comes to offspring? It's like we just ignore the woman's height and expect that any male son would be as tall as us. Maybe there's some scientific truth to that. I don't even really know. Yeah, I've never really looked into that. But certainly if she's shorter, that's going to have an effect on the genetics of the child though, right? One example that stands out to me is LeVar Ball. You know, he's the father of LiAngelo Ball, LaMelo Ball, and Lonzo Ball. You know, two of them are in the NBA. Lonzo Ball played with LeBron James for a while. Now he's playing with the Pelicans, I believe, alongside Brandon Ingram. And he's with the Chicago Bulls right now, I think. And LaMelo is with the Charlotte Hornets, I believe. But anyway, the thing about LeVar Ball, his wife is tall like he is, right? And he specifically chose his wife because she was tall. And so all of his sons are over 6 feet tall. All of his sons are over 6 feet tall, and 2 of them made it to the NBA. And the third one, some people still believe he has potential to make it into the NBA, but 2 out of 3 sons made it to the NBA. And you have to give some credit for that to the fact that he chose a wife that was tall like him to ensure the fact that they would have the genetic advantage of height that would give them a better chance at making it to the NBA. I mean, come on, bro. If more men thought like that, who knows? So Bilal Fernandez says on the Chad Marco video stream, Streets of Rage 4, why do you consider yourself a moist ninja, Marco? I'm curious on why you perceive yourself that way. Also, congrats on wizard status. I think I'm going to be joining you soon. Well, you know, the moist thing within like black Twitter is meant to be like gay or some shit like that. And you know, I like trannies. I like tranny porn. I like traps and shit like that, which is pretty gay. That, you know, it was Hellbreaker who brought it up in the chat, right? And I like traps and tranny porn and shit like that, which is pretty gay. But I think that it kind of gets overlooked because I'm not actually interested in dating and fucking niggas, right? But you know, technically you could say that I'm bisexual because I like trannies and trap porn, right? But I guess like my sexuality or my situation is kind of unique in that despite being a fan of trap porn and being a moist ninja, you know, I'm still not interested in actually like doing anything with a guy or a trap or wherever the fuck, a girlfriend male in real life. But you know, I think I talked about it before on one of the episodes of How to Be a Neat. But I've been wanting to talk about it again too, though, like the whole trap phenomenon and like sexuality, because I see a lot of guys who are like either confused about their sexuality or just kind of in that weird place of like being into traps but not attracted to like guys real life. But you know, I think I talked about it before on one of the episodes of How to Be a Neat. But I've been wanting to talk about it again too, though, like the whole trap phenomenon and like sexuality, because I see a lot of guys who are like either confused about their sexuality or just kind of in that that weird place of like being into traps but not attracted to like guys in real life, or being predominantly attracted to women, or just all kinds of like pseudo bisexual shit, right? And so I think there'll be a good topic for an episode of the podcast too. I've been wanting to do that one. But and especially like to break down specifically why I wouldn't fuck a guy or a trap, even though I'm a fan of like trap porn and shit like that. But it's all just a joke about the moist flexible ninjas. Thanks for that comment, Bilal. So how do you say this? Something Japan, I can't read Japanese. Great video, I'm your fan. He said that on the Nightwalk vlog. Embrace my virginity with the best I ever made. Thanks for that video. Japan, I'm sorry for your loss of Abe Shinzo. You're in my thoughts. So Mustafa Aiden says on the Where the Samurai episode of the podcast, Chad, you're probably one of the greatest, I'm assuming, in the world. I respect your content, my brother. I thank you for that comment, Mustafa Aiden. I know I'm pretty goddamn awesome. So my Melio says the Chad Virgin. I think that's a good, yeah, I like that. I like that. I mean, look, I wouldn't say I'm a Chad. I'm not like, come on, I'm not a Chad. I'm Chad Marco, but I'm not a Chad. I just think I'm cool as fuck. I think that's really what it is. I'm cool and I'm in shape. But sometimes even I wonder, like, damn, like, look, I know I don't put in the effort. I get it. I don't put in the effort. I don't even try. I make no effort to get laid whatsoever. But still, it's still kind of amazing to me, like that's all it really takes, to keep your virginity. And so Katuro says on the same video, yo, Chad, do you play Smash Bros? I guess it's because I had on what is it? What do you call it? The Smash Ball lanyard, the Super Smash Brothers theme lanyard. I got on my Evangelion one right now, and I just bought a new one. I have a Cowboy Bebop one too. I want to get another Naruto one because my old one broke. But no, I don't play Smash. I haven't played Smash Brothers since Melee. So I'm way behind the ball. I haven't played Smash since Melee. But shit, I would love to play it if I had like a Nintendo, whatever the hell is out now. So I can't pronounce that. Says, I wish I could think this way, but I only think of all the pleasures I'm missing out on. That's on the Embracing My Virginity was the best. That's a long title. But yeah, that was on the Embracing My Virginity episode of the Nightwalk vlog. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, cause it seems like people are just built different. I think some people are just more inclined to not be bothered by not being in a relationship. And some people are just more inclined to want to have that family life, to want to have kids and a wife and all that shit. Maybe I should try to like scientifically break down like why I think I've achieved this enlightenment. But just look at what you said though. I only think about the pleasures I'm missing out on. I mean, obviously if that's what you do, then that's gonna be your perspective, right? But I don't do that. Like, my perspective is more balanced. Like, I think of the good and the bad. I'm not so delusional that I don't give credit and credence to the good that one could achieve within a relationship and enjoy within a relationship and sex and whatnot. But it's just that I see so much bad that it's hard to give a fuck. I mean, when I say that I've never seen a healthy relationship in my life, I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. My entire life, I have never seen a relationship where I say, you know what, that's what I want for myself. I want something close to. I've never seen it. So why I think this way, why I am the way that I am, it makes perfect sense. Now I know that my anecdotal experience is not the way of the world, but our environment has so much of an effect on how we think about things. And what you can look at it as a blessing or a curse, but the fact is, growing up, I've seen no positive examples of a relationship that I could say, you know what, I'd rather have that than be single. I've never seen that, at least not in real life. Of course, if you go on the internet and look for it, you can find it. But I'm saying like my reality, like when I go outside, the people that I know, what I see, I don't see those things. And so it's no wonder why I feel the way that I do, because my experiences have told me sex is bad, relationships are bad. And then my experiences have showed me being single fun. You're free. No drama, no stress, no fighting, no kids. What am I supposed? How am I supposed to feel? So on the same video, haha, with a story mark, says, the way I've looked at it over the past few years is that sex, love, lust is like a spell a woman puts on a man. I've seen so many people change after a girl has spread her legs for them, or even before, with the man completely bending his will to get the reward. This is something that even ancient people knew all over the world thousands of years ago. There are chaotic female spirits in ancient Chinese and Japanese. I forgot to hit the read. Damn. I fucked up. Oh man. Look, I'm gonna have to just I fucked up. I didn't get the whole comment there. I forgot to hit read more. So I'm just have to reply to what I see. But he's right on the money though. It really is like a spell, but I wouldn't say it's that one-sided though. I think that women can fall for men almost as hard as men can fall for women, right? I think what tends to happen though is that because of hypergamy or the 80-20 rule, I think that typically it's harder for men to put women under that spell, or the average guys at least. I think that when the roles are reversed and it's a high value man or a very attractive man dealing with a less attractive woman, then you will see that the things that women would do to try to maintain that relationship, to please that man, is very reminiscent of what you see the average guy doing to maintain his relationship. So I don't think it's just something that women necessarily do to men. I think that it can be a mutual thing. It's just that because women tend to have more value than men, more often than not, women tend to be the ones with the power in relationships, with the power in terms of the exchange of sex. In the world of dating, women just tend to dominate. But when you're talking about guys who actually are like in the upper echelon of men, high tier men, high value men, chads, like they can get women wrapped around their finger too. But definitely true. Like the thing about people changing after a girl has spread their legs for them. I've seen that myself, with one of my good friends. We both we both can be, goofy, silly, how young guys are. You don't really got your shit together. But I always saw him as being a reasonable person, a reasonable, level-headed person. But the things he'll tolerate within a relationship, I mean, it's really, quite frankly, just pathetic, right? I mean, like, just to give you a taste, like, he's in a toxic relationship. His girl is so crazy that he can't even have peace in his own house where he paying bills at. So what he'll do sometimes, he'll get in his car and he'll drive to my house and he'll park in my front yard and just sleep in his car, right? And see, he's too proud to to even knock on the door and ask, yo, can I crash on the couch? Right? And part of it too is that he needs to watch the car, because if he's inside, his girl might pull up and like bust the windows out or something. She's crazy as fuck. But this, there have been several times where I walked outside and this nigga this was before summertime. Like during the winter, this nigga would be out in like 30, 40 degree weather, 3 o'clock in the morning, sleep in his car, wrapped up in like shirts and towels and shit. All because his girl acting so crazy that he can't sleep in his own home, the home that he paying bills in, right? And that's the nature of his relationship, and he will not leave her. That's the insanity of relationships. That's the insanity of love. So when people listen to me and they think I'm fucking coping, dude, you don't know shit. You don't know a goddamn thing. That's what the fuck I see in my life. That's what relationships look like to me, right? That's insanity, right? And the scariest thing about it is that, you know, he's not some fucking retard, right? He's a reasonable person with a decent head on his shoulders. It's no excuse, but that's the power of lust. That's the power of sex. Got this man sleeping in his car in 30 degree weather when he has a home that he's paying bills at, but he'd rather sleep in his car than be around his girl. But the attachment is so strong that he still can't leave. At some point, he still goes back to that home and the craziness resumes. Thanks for that comment. So, Hopeless Dreamer says, this guy's a virgin. He looks handsome. If he can't get any, there's no hope for me. That's a compliment. But then Karda Jalil Toma says, he looks handsome. Not even close. Deathnick, which means that you're not white, therefore that's an advantage. Plus 410 face, being generous. 4. I wouldn't say 4. I give myself at least a 5 in the face. Come on, look, you see the cut of that jaw? Don't know his height, but it's over anyway, unless 6'4". My height is 5'8". You know, I think, you know, he's pretty spot on, but 4'10" in the face, nah, man, come on now. You gotta give me at least one more point than that. I think I'm sufficiently handsome. So haha with a story mark then replies, he's no Giga Chad, but he looks good and also has a chill persona that is very likable. I think the point is that he is not your run-of-the-mill basement dwelling incel stereotype. And I think that's really what it is. You know, I get a lot of guys saying things like, just like Hopeless Dreamer, this guy's a virgin. Like, what? Look, bro. This is how crazy this shit is, bro. I was playing Evil Dead, the game, right? And you know, that's a multiplayer game where you can play with mics and whatnot. So I played with different groups on Discord, and you know, we're all on mic playing the game together and stuff like that. And so I was telling people about my channel, and I was telling them about the whole like virgin neat theme of it, right? And then one of the guys was like, dude, you're not a virgin. Like, there's no way. Right. And I'm like, dude, how do you know? How do you know whether I'm a virgin or not? Like you don't know me. Like, we're just talking about, you know, this game over mic and shit. But what I think what's interesting about it was that just based on my energy in interacting with him, he couldn't believe I was a virgin. He don't know what I look like, but just based on like my energy, he was like, you're fucking around. You can't be a virgin, bro. Like, and of course that's a compliment for me, right? But I think that's kind of what makes my situation interesting, is that it's not that I'm a Giga Chad. It's not even that I'm high value or anything like that. I just think that when you look at me, the combination of my boyish, handsome, good looks and my personality, you wouldn't expect someone like me to be a virgin. But the way the dating game is now, you know, it's just shit. It happens, man. And so Richard Bug says the same thread of comments. he's mentioned about being 5'10". I'm 5'8". I've never said I'm 5'10", but I guess the Chad Marco lore is probably all over the place. And then Karja responds to, God, I got an earache. Karja responds to Mark and says, majority of them do not fit the stereotype. He doesn't look good and personality is a meme. The fact is he's sub 5 facially, 5'10", 5'8". Deathnick wizard without major social economical status. True. It's over. Actually, it never began. His only hope is leg lengthening surgery to at least 6 feet. Even that's low. Plus thug maxing or status, social, and money maxing. Skin bleaching, even considering all this, is pretty over. I think I like the way I look. I'll put it like that. I like the way I look. I wouldn't say I look good. I just like the way I look, and I don't know how people should take that, but I like the way I look. I don't have an issue with the way I look. I like the way I look. And personality, I think, I don't think personality is a meme. I think personality I think it can be important. I don't really like the word personality though. Like, I prefer the word attitude. I think attitude is more specific to what I think can make the difference as far as like how you deal with women, is your attitude towards it, and your outlook, your energy, shit like that. But he believes I'm a sub 5 facially. I'll take that. I disagree. I think I'm at least a 5. But, 1 or 2 point differential, not a big deal. 5'10", I'm actually 5'8", though. Deathnick, I don't think that really matters. Look, no. Race matters, right? But the thing is, I'm black in the black community. And as far as like the way the races kind of interact with each other, it's not like with Asian guys, where Asian women overwhelmingly love white guys, right? I know that there are quite a few black women who are attracted to white men, but I don't think it's in the same ballpark as what Asian guys have to deal with in regards to their women preferring another race. Me being black could be a disadvantage dealing with white women, Asian women, whatever. But I think that I'm firmly safe and at home with, as far as like black women are concerned, and I gotta say, I know I've talked about it before, but Melly Monaco's Pineapple Show, right? The little speed dating show. Most of the girls that she brings on are like black or mixed or something. And one of the main things or traits that they look for in a guy is, of course, height. He gotta be 6 feet plus. But what surprised me was how many girls straight up said, I want a black man, right? I want a black man. Like, these are black and mixed girls up there for the most part. And most of them have said, I want a black man. So I think my ethnicity doesn't really have a big effect maybe outside of my race, but I don't really, I will be satisfied with a black girl. So I don't think that's really, I guess me, I don't worry about it because I'm okay with dating within my race. And I don't think being black isn't a disadvantage like being Asian is. When you're like, being black is not a disadvantage when you want to deal with black women, the way being Asian is a disadvantage when you want to deal with Asian women, right? So I don't really worry about that. But definitely without social economical status, like that's definitely a big downside. But leg lengthening surgery, I wouldn't do that anyway. Thug maxing, that's an option for sure. Black girls love thugs for sure. Like that's definitely not. I wouldn't do it, but that's a realistic, like not practical, but that's some real shit. Statics, social money maxing, that's another legitimate option, but I think that pertains to everybody. Skin bleaching, nah, I'm good on that. I wouldn't do it, and I don't think that's really all that important anyway. Because I think at the end of the day, even if you skin bleach, you're still black, right? Most girls will have like this thing with ethnicity. It's not necessarily the tone of your skin. It's your like, I can't skin bleach to the point of being white or something else. I'm still gonna be noticed to be black. So that's not gonna matter anyway. But this guy definitely gave me a harsh critique, and that's fine. But I'm just saying that what I've noticed in my own personal experience, my fans and several of the people around me tend to say or tend to believe that I could get laid, that I could get bitches. Now, the quality of those women, I don't know, right? Now, even me, I'm fairly confident that I could get moon-faced, gorilla, sloppy fat bitches, right? But that's just one of the things that I know. A lot of the people around me tend to believe that I could, my thing is, I know I could get the moon-faced sloppy bitches, but I wonder if I could get anything better than that, right? I think I could if I put in a sufficient amount of effort. But I think taking everything into account, the Chad Marco situation is just I think it's until I get laid, if I ever get laid or get a girlfriend, it's always going to be somewhat of a mystery, Evolution is a mystery. I just thought it. But I think the Chad Marco situation is always going to be somewhat mysterious until I break through, or if I break through and start having sex, because I get different critique. Because every now and then I will get someone like Carda who has no faith in my pussy getting ability, right? But then I have people that I know that say the exact opposite, right? And it's not like they're trying to be nice. Like, I remember one of my friends, he came over the other week and he was talking to his cousin, right? Now I'm nowhere around. I'm off in solitude, right? But he told me that he was talking to his cousin, and his cousin was telling him like, man, that nigga E-Man be bullshitting. He can get bitches, right? That's my street name, E-Man, right? And so, that's how people talk about me. Right. So on one hand, you have the Cardas who have no faith in me. And then you have other people like my friends and whatnot, and and other fans who do look at me and say, you know what, this guy could get laid. Like, what the fuck is going on? So I get mixed signals. That's what I'm saying though. Like I definitely get mixed signals. I think my own personal belief is that I could get fat, sloppy bitches easily, but could I get a QT? That's really the question. Like, could I get a QT? That's the question. Oh God, this isn't even done. I thought it was over. Anyway, haha, what a story mark says, you've been on PSL forums too long, dude. Not saying things aren't ridiculous out there in a dating game, but I think you're missing the point of the video. Don't want to speak for Chad, but he leans more MGTOW as per his past videos. This is true. At that point, you stop caring about dedicating your life to things like thug maxing and looking up Indian lead lengthening. I forgot to extend the comment again. I'm sorry, but yeah, I got the point. And then Carter says, didn't miss anything as I wasn't talking about the video's merit. All responses were contextual to this subthread. Expressions such as over were used in assumption if he wanted to, which I failed to express, so fair enough. Yeah, I mean, what he's saying is that based on his assessment of my looks, right? And he's not taking personality into account, because for him, personality is a meme, right? So what all he's saying is that when he looks at me, he doesn't see pussy getting potential, right? And you know what? That's fine, right? Me personally, I don't care either way, right? My ego isn't invested in that. I see it as a like when I hear things like what my friend's cousin said about believing that I had the potential to get bitches and shit. Like, you know, hearing stuff like that makes me feel good, right? It's a nice, like, I take it as a compliment because it sees it shows that they see value in me, and they don't understand why a guy as awesome as I am isn't able to attract women. Right. And so I take that as a compliment, but I don't like, again, my ego isn't really wrapped up in that. You know, even if it was quote unquote over, even if I was an incel, to me, it wouldn't really make a difference. Whether I'm an incel or a vocel makes no difference to me because for me, being a virgin and being single is not an issue, right? I can live with it. It's not a big deal. So I don't care either way. But I do get mixed signals for the most part. Like most people tend to believe that I do have some pussy getting potential, but every now and then I'll get a card to who'd be like, nah, you ain't got it. But you know what? That's cool too. So Joba something says, I got off 4chan like 2.5 years ago. But periodically, I like to go back to that time. Wish my main care in the world were still Jews. Ha 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 ha. If you make it, don't forget your roots, bros. I would never forget. Thanks for that comment, Joba. And then Siege264 says, I agree. You have a similar musical vibe as an artist as Uzi. I definitely get his vibes listening to your tracks. And I don't even listen to a lot of Uzi Vert, but from what I have heard, I know, like, that's my dream collaboration. A Chad Marco Uzi Vert collaboration. Let's make it happen. After the Eggman collaboration mixtape. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And next week, not next week, but the next episode, I'm still trying to figure out what the theme is going to be. So I can't give you a sneak peek or what have you. But just know it's going to be a great episode. I guarantee it. So Chad Marco, checking out, logging off, and tuning out, and Johnny.